Alright, just a couple of seconds. Alright, everybody. Hey, guess what? It is Sunday, December 2nd, 2018, and you are listening to Education with Ed. Now, we're going to go off of the corporate corruption, also known as the 16th Amendment, where basically they're just being redundant. They're giving you, in this amendment, rights that was never taken away originally. It's just redundant. So, Ed, why don't you take it away?
Oh, yeah, we want to be able to play the video first. Let's go ahead and play the video first, and I'll come back.
All right, will do. All right, in that case...
Hey guys, welcome to Hughes History. We're Hughes History, the last of the Reconstructed Amendment, and that would be the 14th and 15th Amendment, giving African American males the right to vote. Let's look at the words of the amendment, the lead up to the amendment, but more importantly, the kind of the failure of the amendment, the effect of the amendment, and we're about to grow your brain, so giddy up to learning. And first there were the words.
Section 1. The right of the citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on the account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Section 2. The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation.
Before we talk about the 15th Amendment, we want to put it into context, and I think the years are important. This will help you a little bit. Of course, we know that the Civil War ended in 1865, and we also get the 13th Amendment in 1865. This is like Lincoln's last hurrah before he's assassinated, and that amendment gets ratified. But by abolishing slavery, and this is really due to the failure of the Emancipation Proclamation, really to live after the Civil War, Northern Republicans are especially worried about representation in Congress. You have to go to the House. Go to the House! And the House is based on population. You have to remember that these southern states were represented in those congressional districts before the Civil War with a 3/5 slave population. Now that 3/5 is going to be full representation, which means they're going to get more House seats. And that means that if they can control kind of how, people vote and who votes and all that stuff, they're really going to expound their numbers. They're going to grow as a force. The Democrats are going to take over. In 1866, we get the Civil Rights Act of 1866. And this is an attempt by the radical Republicans really to start to enfranchise African Americans who are facing automatically black codes, which are stripping them of any rights, which are denying them equal access, which are really doing kind of a neo-slavery job of them. So in 1866, they passed the Civil Rights Act, which is very flowery in its language about the federal government is going to protect the rights of these new African American freed, peoples. And what do we get? We get an Andrew Johnson veto. So, learning alert. The first
override of a
veto in American history comes when those radical Republicans in Congress were like, hey, Johnson, we call you, and we override your veto, and it became law. But it's still going to be a problem because the courts are going to interpret it in a way where it's really not enforceable, and really Congress isn't going to have the teeth to really, do what they need to do. And there's also this problem of Republicans also having some discrimination in their minds. I mean, we have nativism on the East Coast. We have nativism with the Chinese, stuff going on in the railroad out west. So really, there's no really rush to enforce the spirit of the Civil Rights Act of 1866. So what do we get? We get the radical Republicans saying that we have to get this into the Constitution. And this is a really quick history. I'm probably talking too much about it. But that results in the 14th Amendment, which becomes a precondition for those southern states coming back into the Union. We're going to make these African Americans citizens. So now that they're citizens, there's this real rush that we need to allow them to vote because the representation is changing. So that's where we are. We're in 1868, right around there, and radical Republicans are seeing these new southern states coming back into the Union, and they're thinking our days are numbered. So the amendment, the 15th Amendment, is really born in the beginning of 1869 by a very nervous Nelly Republican-controlled House. They're worried that, they're lame ducks, they have no power, and the Democrats are coming. So before the Democrats can get there, let's give African Americans the right to vote, so those African Americans in the South are going to be Republican voters, and maybe we can hold on to our majority. I think really that's the spirit, rather than this kind of, flowery equality language. It's really pragmatically a way to keep themselves in power, but of course it's still the right thing to do. So we get that proposal in 1869, and it's very controversial. It's controversial not only in the South, but in the North. There's only 8 northern states that allowed African Americans to vote in their states. So we're asking the North to change along with the South. And we already talked about nativism that's rampant on the East Coast and the West Coast. And another source of contention is with women's groups. You have really a split in the suffrage movement. The National Women's Suffrage Association, this is with Susan B. Anthony, who's opposed to the amendment because they want in. And then you have the American Women's Suffrage Association. This is Lucy Stone, and these are the people that are supporting the amendment. So it's really splitting other groups. But at the end of the day, they're going to squeak this thing through. It was really a close call, both in the House and in the Senate. It's a party vote. It's Republicans favoring it because it's expanding their base, and it's Democrats that are opposing it for a variety of reasons. So there we go. We get that in 1870, right before the Democrats are going to be coming back and controlling soon the House. We get this amendment thrown into the ratification process, and we all know that you need 3/4 of the states, and one of the issues is going to be, at least from a Southern perspective, that these are legislatures that are being controlled by radical Republicans and by, a union-dominated South. These really aren't representations of Southern viewpoints, that, in a sense, they're being strong-armed into accepting this amendment. But yada, 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 bada, bada, boom, we get the 15th Amendment right around June. Now, I don't know about the month, it just rhymed, but in 1870, we definitely get the 15th Amendment, and now we're definitely going to take a minute to look at the effects of the 15th Amendment, or maybe the failure of the 15th Amendment. Call that. Just step aside or you might end up in a heap. So here's a little bit of irony for you folks out there. In 1876, we have African Americans that are voting in the South. They're voting mainly because they're union occupied, and now we have the 15th Amendment, and they're voting for a guy by the name of Rutherford B. Hayes, who's a Republican. And of course, he's running against the Democrat Samuel Tilden, who was from New York. Yeah, whatever. But at the end of that, scenario, what occurs is that Tilden probably wins. He wins the popular vote. He probably wins the electoral vote. But through this kind of backdoor dealing, this compromise occurs where Rutherford B. Hayes takes the presidency and removes those Union troops. And now the irony is that it's those African Americans that got him elected, and now he's turning his back on those African Americans who are going to be stripped of those rights of vote by state enacted laws. These are now Jim Crow laws. So we have literacy tests. We have poll taxes you have to pay. You have to read under the literacy test. And you have grandfather clauses, which say to white voters that if your grandfather voted, you don't have to read or you don't have to pay. Huh? What up with that? And what up with that is that the Supreme Court, which is the final arbitrator in what this 15th Amendment means, is basically going to say this doesn't so much give African Americans the right to vote, it just really restricts the southern states from denying them the right to vote. So if you have race-neutral laws like poll taxes, asking people to pay $5 for bureaucratic paperwork, or that you need to read because we think that you have to have a certain level of an IQ or something like that in order to vote, that's up to the southern states. That doesn't mean they're doing it because they're black. Yeah, so that's really going to be the rule. And through intimidation, of course, the Ku Klux Klan, democratic, power in the South, racist power, blacks aren't going to be able to exercise that right to vote. Yet those southern states are going to get more representation because they have these African American citizens in the state. So that's hashtag irony. So fast forward to, 1965, where we get the Voting Rights Act, and now the federal government's finally going to get some teeth to really supervise these elections in these racist areas of the country. And everybody lived happily ever after. Maybe, maybe not. So that's the 15th Amendment, guys. We hope that you learned it. Remember, it's 15. to remember those 3 amendments. You can watch the other amendment videos. I think that's really important to get those down. But now, you ain't a clown, and it's like I'm a rapper today or something like that. So giddy up for that, guys. Thanks for watching. You know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say where attention goes, energy flows, and we'll see you next time that you press my buttons. You better be subscribed. A couple quick shout-outs, guys. Hip Hughes History went down like a clown about a month, 2 months ago. Somebody's daughter, we're not going to
challenging video from the democratic terrorism point of view. You got to remember the one thing about what happened with the 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th Amendment. The 13th was the only one that was lawfully ratified. Everything past that is administrative code, administrative rule of the British government. The Roman Catholic Church, your 501c3 through 501c3 9 tax write-offs, your administrative corporation, religions that are controlling your life, that tells you how to flush your toilet, that dictates your income. Hey, that's the reality of the real world, folks. I mean, I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm just telling you the way the truth is. So when he's talking about the 15th Amendment, basically it comes down on the 14th Amendment on the right to vote, and that's the whole point. If you vote, you have no rights. You give your rights to the British government, the King and Queen of England. You bow your head. You are not an American. You have nothing. And if you don't do what they say, that's how they can throw your ass in jail. That's how they rape, rob, and pillage us, because you vote. Because prior to that, and when you're talking 1867, 1868, nobody voted in this goddamn country prior to that. But see, this is the way that they did after that with the Vatican rules. So, you know, that's the one thing that the Vatican, you know, churches, we need to combine church and state. We need to have you bow your head to some fantasy. And that's what the 15th Amendment is, a fantasy. Because, see, the thing is that we have rights. If you're lawful, and I've been on the phone all week, you know, and I've been up and down, in and out of the hospital too, folks, again. But that's beside the point, you know, a few close calls, but I'm here. But the bottom line comes out on this. When they're sitting there telling you that you have these so-called rights, the Constitution gives you a right. The Constitution gives a woman a right to her body. God don't give you any rights. The Bible doesn't give you any rights. I don't care what religion or fantasy movie you want to talk about or watch. It doesn't give you any rights. The treaties of the United States Corporation and the treaties with the Native Americans have rights. They have to honor the treaties and the Constitution, elected and public servants. You heard them talk about the 15th Amendment with servitude. Your servants, your elected and public employees, that was determined in, 1878? Elected and public servants were determined at that point with the 15th Amendment. So this is the one thing that people need to get and comprehend this stuff, what it really says, compared to the fantasy they're living in, their fantasy of their mind. Because the 15th Amendment gave us servants. All right, that divided church and state, because they try to combine church and state that you're living right now today. Because when you go into a court system today, and that's why we do recommend, and we tell people, find out if the judge has an oath. If he doesn't, file on him. You can't wait. And I talk to people all the time, well, I had to wait for this. No. The minute you find out they don't provide that, you file with the Secretary of State and you go after them. There is no God. There's no kindness here. These people don't give a damn about you. They make their money of rape, robbing your children, your bloodline. And for those who are honorable, elected, and public servants, those are the ones we need to talk about, and those are the ones we need to work with. But the ones that are not being honorable public servants, no, you don't deal with them. I don't give a shit who the hell they are. Because that is the reason why this country is in a hell in a handbasket. That's why the immigration, what's going on. And people keep sending me this stuff going, Ed, you're being lied about immigration. Number one, folks, I know the truth of immigration. I know we're being invaded. I don't believe in all this other fantasy about God and all this other crap with immigration, because we're being invaded. Remember, God, the British Bible, the English government invaded the Native Americans, raped, robbed, and murdered them, and still Christianity is still doing it today. Christians still do it today. You go to your church, you go to your court system, you do it today, right now, today. You go to church, what do? You don't stand up for the people in your community. I'll pray for them. See, that's the problem we have. When are we going to stand up? So this is the part with the 13th, 14th, and the 12th Amendment that gives us the rights. So this is the point that you have to learn what the right is. And everybody says, oh, we need to amend this. We need to change it. You cannot change it. And the only way an administrative rule can be changed is by Congress and its administrative rule. We, the people, do not apply to them. I've proven the actual laws, the administrative codes, that's even written by the Department of Secretary of State's office. And I've provided this stuff to you, including for your children, that I've even provided that if you don't register your child in 30 days, the state claims it as abandonment vessel. I provided the factual evidence for you to prove it. So don't sit there and try to bullshit the general public and these people who are doing this, like people I got in tonight in conversations, today, this afternoon, and last night, things. And it's like, I get tired of people bullshitting and coming up to me. It's like, folks, in the last month, I died 6 times, okay? Well, actually, 5 times now. It's been 5 times since last July. And this last week, I had to go be carted back in, and, but I'm still here. I'm doing this. I'm talking to you right now. I'm not sitting there doing this, oh, I'm feeling bad, and I got to go climb in the corner, and I need to play this psychological wham-wham game. Bullshit. We have things that we have to protect the bloodline of this country for. And if you're not willing to protect the bloodline of this country or your children, I'm sorry to say, you don't have a right. I don't have no bloodline that I know of, but I'm fighting for yours. Isn't that interesting? Why should I care? But I have other family. I've had other friends that I do care about. So that is the point. And if we don't protect the bloodline, the native bloodline that goes back in this country that gave us our Constitution and our treaties, we don't have rights. Because like all these other amendments that we're going to talk for the next several weeks. Next Sunday is going to be a hell of a one. I got 45 minutes of videos that I'm going to be hitting. A couple of good, really, 3 really good short little videos that are going to be on taxes. They're going to blow your mind. But you need to hear this stuff. You need to write it down. And if you are playing the tax game, quit whining and crying. You don't have a right to bitch that they're screwing you over. Because you're playing the game. You gave them authorization to screw you over by filing the income tax. You gave them authority to play the game. So either you're in the system of taxes or you're not. It's simple, cut and dry, no ifs, ands, or buts. And if you're bouncing back and forth, well, shit, then you wonder why the crap you're going through. What do you think, that this is a game? Of course it is. They already have the game written down. They already know what they're doing. So that's why, you don't claim to claim anything. You stay out of their system. And for all these nutcases out there that are trying to tell people in the general public that Social Security is a government agency and it's a benefit and a privilege, is bullshit. You guys are so stupid and uneducated. The original contract that was written has nothing to do with it. It only happened in, I think it was called 1997, May. William Jefferson Clinton made humans a human trafficking item under Executive Order 1778 that signed the payee structure of employers over the Queen of England. But so long as that you're a lawful bloodline native, you're still in a contract of the original structure of Social Security. Please go get the original foundation. I think we have that on new.org and trackers. We'll get the other information up too. Please read it. It's an actual contract that are obligated. The House and Senate members are, because your senators, congressmen, your mayors, the city of Toledo, your city of whatever city you're in, your county commissioners, their assets are personally liable to pay it. Read the law sometimes, the real laws, not statute codes and administration of what they call democracy. We're not a democracy. We never have been. So when people start preaching democracy, why are you sitting there preaching your kids the devil and lying to your children? That's like lying to your children about Christmas. You know, I mean, yeah, oh, don't tell the kids the truth, Ed. I mean, I know I grew up around kids. I mean, I knew Christmas when I grew up. I mean, I learned it, you know, very young. But it didn't destroy me. It didn't rock my life. It didn't ruin my life. You know, I mean, you know, I've been through things in my life that, you know, growing up, it's life, folks. You know, mommy and daddy don't work out. Your brothers and sisters don't work out. Your cousins don't work out. You know, the bird flying over your head shits on your head, and you wonder why you got shit on your head. Don't know why it didn't work out. Who cares? The thing is that we're alive and we have a bloodline and we have a country to fight for. We got to stop the argument that we're arguing over this bullshit of mind control. Oh, the Bible says we can abort the children. Read the law. Does a woman have a right to her body? And I talk to women all the time. Yes, they do. And then all of a sudden when you get into it, well, she shouldn't abort her kid. Well, does she have a right to her body or does she not? The Constitution gives a woman the right to her body. Not God, not man, not your brother, not your sister. The woman has the right to her body just as much as I have the right to my body. It's like I've been in and out of the hospital the last month, and I finally went in and told them, this is what I want you to do. So the doctor did exactly what I asked him to do. That's why I'm back home right now instead of life support system. Okay, I'm not playing the game. I do my research. Yes, I have severe medical issues. The one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a PayPal. I'm going to GoFundMe site. I'm going to get that started this week because I want to set up to try to get $6,500 because I want to go to the Oregon State House of Capitol. I want to bring some of this bills and the stuff I've been doing and what we've been doing. I want to introduce it to the House and Senate. I want to push them for the media to tell the truth. Wouldn't that be a hell of an eye-opening? Bring this stuff. They can't run and hide. They all know me up there. Most of them personally have known me for years. I know Kate Brown personally knows me for years. I mean, everybody knows what they did to my family when I recalled the Lincoln County School Board and everybody attacked me and all this stuff. So, I mean, you know, I'm not bashful. It's been in the newspapers. I have nothing to hide. Why would I have anything to hide? I just want the truth out. So, I mean, and that's the point. So, and that's the point that we're working with these amendments and getting the truth out because these things are statute codes and administratively passed. And yes, we need the public servants to honor their oath of servitude. That's what he was talking about. You know, this Hughes guy, even though he's a Democrat. And there's no such thing as democracy in the United States. We have a Republican form of government. We have a democracy of the elected and public administrative rules that they have to go by. They have to follow those rules and regulations like Title 5, 1333 through 1 through 33. 1333. That's basically Title 5, where they have to take the oath of office and do the servitude. They don't do that, they don't get a paycheck. Not only that, I'm writing this stuff, and you'll see it here shortly, that all your states are not supposed to pay your public servants, and debt notes are supposed to pay them legally in gold and silver. And that's Oregon state law. That's every state. That's even by the Department of the Treasury. So we're technically supposed to be paid in gold and silver. You know, the postmasters, the post office is supposed to be paying, because the post office are the postmasters. So they're supposed to be paying we, the lawful bloodline natives, and all the elected and public employees, the contractors, in gold and silver. That's the post office actual job. So, I mean, this is the point of going back and looking at what real history is, the real facts that we live today. And that's the point of getting back to the point that to come back to reality, the real life that these things that are there to protect us, we the people. So, I mean, with that, with we the people, this is what goes on. We have these things to protect us. So when it comes down to this, now we have structures that are there to protect our lawful bloodline. And that's our responsibility to educate the children and protect the bloodline. So this is the point of getting all this stuff out. Some of the people might say this is radical. But that's why I say when you write your affidavits, You know, you have to be honorable in your wording. You have to be 100% honorable. See, when you're honorable and you put the stuff there and it comes out with facts, and you're not doing hearsay like they try to get you, because everybody keeps talking, oh, the person, the people. And I always love when people say person, the person, and I always like to go, oh, you're talking about the dead entity, the corporation. No, the person, the person. No, you're talking about nothing that exists. The person don't exist. Man and woman, child exist. You know, a man or woman with their name exists. See, that's the point with who exists, what exists. And so this is what we are physically living today. So this is the point of getting this out. Like the 16th Amendment, we're going to be getting into the 16th Amendment, which I'm going to enjoy like heck next week. Because, I mean, we got the IMF stuff. We've got it down. We want to make sure this is out. We want to make sure you guys start passing it on. Because you can file this stuff with your local property taxes and stuff. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm posting that stuff with the stuff I wrote dealing with the water and electricity bills. Now I'll be sending it out to every county. That's going to be in every county and state. And when I'm done here pretty soon with that myself. I'm almost got the letter. Like I said, I've been working on this for the last couple of letters for the one for the county commissioners. Because when I include that, I'm putting together basically all the stuff I've done in the last 3 years, and that's going to go on all that stuff with a cover letter. And the cover letter is going to be one hell of a cover letter with all the evidence. And so this is going to be something that when I go to the Oregon State House and Senate and you guys get a copy, make sure this is passed on. Make sure you ask these questions in the Senate session. I don't give a damn what state you're in. You know, you can read the stuff what we got going on in our territory. Read it to yours. Bring it out. Because once you start bringing this stuff out and they can't run and hide. See, this is the point that we've got the structure, that we've got the facts. So when they can't run and hide, you know, they're screwed. And now they're going to have to start honoring their oath of servitude. When they started talking about, oh, the 14th Amendment was never passed and ratified. The last amendment that was passed and ratified was the one on public employees and lawyers. And so that comes down to your maritime courts. So when you go to these courts, these kangaroo courts, do you bow your head? Do you give your servitude over to them? So that's the point. You're giving your rights over. You're not standing up in court. Yes, I do comprehend it's difficult. I do comprehend how nerve-wracking and possibly scary it is when you are standing there by yourself, but that's why I suggest you put it in paper writing before you get there. Then you serve it to them in writing. And then when they talk, you don't bring up your name, you refer to the paper. Because the paper is not hearsay evidence. So you put an affidavit of fact in, it's not hearsay evidence, cannot be confused. So that's the whole point. Now, if you're going to beat them at their game, provide their game. They wrote it, we quote it. So when we quote it, we're quoting their administrative rules. And that means asking them, is this administrative rule so-and-so? Is this a fact that you have to comply to this? Or is this something that you don't have to do? Or why is it my responsibility if you don't have to do it? See, these are the questions that bring in this up. You know, bringing these things to these tables. You know, I mean, I get these people all the time, they're asking about the rights to travel, and you get pulled over, you got to learn how to talk to the public servant. You know, and trust me, I've gone after it, and I've blown it, and I've lost it, and I've cussed at them, and I've done the same thing. And, of course, a lot of times I've done it rightfully with no issues. I've even gone and cussed at the judges at the courthouse, and I got YouTube videos of me telling them off on air on the structure. You know, public meetings and stuff. I mean, that's the whole point. Been there, done it. We have these rights. But the thing is, it's called responsibility, you know. Sometimes we lose our attitude or we do swear, but that happens. You know, when you start giving me this, oh, I don't do this and I don't do that, we all swear, we all cuss, we all been down the road. That's the thing that gets to me. So we can't run and hide on these type of things. So like I said, I am putting together this other structure. I'm putting together a couple more instruments that I am putting this stuff out and getting this out. And so when you get this information, please pass it on and save it, because some of this information has been disappearing off of the websites and stuff, because they realize that people are actually starting to realize and pick this stuff up. And you got to remember that these lawyers and doctors and attorneys make a living off it. I mean, it's like I've gone through the runaround with some of these doctors, you know, trying to do this, that, the other thing. And it's like, no, dude, here's the way it works. You know, it's that simple. And, you know, so I mean, you know, it's frustrating when you have to sit there and do that. And then, you know, I do talk about the birth certificate bond every time I'm in the doctor's office and stuff. I know the structure. They know I know it now more than anything else, because now I've got a couple of them that we've actually had a couple open conversations about it. And it was like, thank you. I appreciate the respect now. You got it. I got it. You know it. So now we're on the same page. We don't have to sit there and play the psychological game back and forth with each other. So now instead of me sitting there going, now I can attack you and I can do all this, now how do we solve some of these issues? And so now I need you to be a doctor and do your job. You know, I'm not here just to be pumped with all these psychological medications or all these drugs you want to get. And believe me, I don't take any of the psychological medications ever. Don't do it. Don't participate. I know the structure. I know ADHD, attention deficit disorder, is a joke, a fraud. How do I know that, folks? I'm one of the original guinea pigs. Yes, proven, 70 to 72, Cal Berkeley St. Mary's Hospital. I am one of the original guinea pigs of those studies. You know, been there, done it, used to live it, you know, walked the life. So I do know what I'm talking about. So that's the point, that bringing these facts up that we're living today, and how do we solve these issues? Now we have the issues to solve. And it's very simple. We need to start filing on their oath of office. You need to start filing your affidavits and make sure they're hung up on the public bulletin boards. See, once these things are getting up there and they're hanging up, and your public employees realize they can't sit there and put the swingle on us, and you're starting to realize that they're going to start backing off. They're going to start going, oh, shit. Because remember, some of these people, you know, do want to keep their jobs, their pensions. Just like you want to keep your job and pension. But when they're sitting there stealing the money like these Democrats and Republicans have been doing, because remember, you know, they're both in the same thing, because they created the Democratic and Republican Party after the Civil War to bankrupt this country, to steal your rights away, because they couldn't do it by the Constitution. There was no possible way they could do it by the Constitution. And they know it. They knew it. Because the Constitution gives us our rights, not privileges. And as soon as you folks start comprehending the right versus the privilege, that's how we're going to start winning these things. When you file your court cases, file it in the right court. But the other point is, when we got these court cases going on, we need to make sure we're getting people in these buildings. And if they're not in the buildings, we need to put an affidavit together. That some of these people should put an affidavit together and get them out there. You know, we need to get this stuff over Facebook and a lot of other stuff. And people keep going off on Facebook. Remember, if it wasn't for Facebook, most of us wouldn't have contact. Let me clarify that. YouTube and Facebook, we wouldn't have contact. We wouldn't have these things going on right now. So this is the point that is comprehending what the truth is, what these things have really done for us, realizing the facts of how these things have truly worked for us. So once we get this stuff where we stop arguing about the tit for tat of, you know, oh, who's God, what God, why God, Who's abortion? What abortion? Who gives a goddamn rat's about abortion? It's the woman's responsibility and the man. They have to live with it. You don't have to live with it in your home. It's not your problem. That's their problem. Learn to be adults. Quit acting like children. They got us running around like children. They spent over $50 billion psychological analyzations on this stuff for DHS, for the state. You know, don't forget, it was all part of the Nazism structure, too. You know, I mean, we brought all those Nazis over to this country. We brought them over here. We gave them all the Johnson & Johnson Corporation as a foundation of Nazi Germany. And, oh, that's right, it is actually run by the British government still today, Johnson & Johnson Corporation. But you guys already knew that. So, I mean, and they're still running this stuff through the bank. Now, we just had Papa Bush. He just passed away, which is interesting with Papa Bush because when he passed away, remember, he was 100% Nazism. Bush Sr. was in 1911 convicted of treason, was supposed to face a tribunal of execution, which never happened. So, and they've been getting away with this for years, and the reason why is because of the people. And you guys keep going, well, the government is supposed to do this. The government is supposed to do that. When are you people going to start being educated, intelligent, and realize when you look in the mirror, we the people are the government? It's we the people's responsibility to make it happen. It's we the people. So once we the people get this, then we the people have rights. So when you're putting the affidavits, I mean, I've got several out there. You guys can endorse it, write your own, come up with your own. Let's get this stuff happening. Because it's called we the people. Either it's we the people or it's none of the people. And so that's the point that we've got to come back to the facts here. And once we get back to the facts, we've got the solution to the issues. It's like in the state of Oregon. This is what I'm trying to get through to people to comprehend, even with this last election. ORS 164.125, theft of tax services, theft of taxpayer services. Kate Brown has been in the newspaper spending lottery funds. The Oregonian has been written all this stuff. How the hell did she get elected in office again? Think about it, folks. Here's the thing. She's embezzled. We can prove it. Let's do it. It's your responsibility, my responsibility to do this. This is not somebody else's fantasy. See, these are the things that we, the people, are supposed to have the responsibility of doing this to protect our children, your bloodline. And that's why I keep harping on this stuff. It's your bloodline. I don't have bloodline to pass down. I mean, you know, you do. So if you don't pass it down, who gives a shit? And then when they end up in a FEMA camp or they ended up the same thing in a gas chamber, what, you don't think that's possible? What's going on right now with population control? I mean, shit, if I would have took the other medications that they wanted to put me on, I would probably be dead right now. I argued with them on it. I told them what it was going to do. Doctors looking at me and I said, I know about this, that, and the other thing. Here's this, that, and the other thing, and this is what we're going to do. And now I got to fight them on the other point, going after the medication, because in the state of Oregon, if you don't do one of their so-called contracts to get medication, if you take anything outside of what you sign a contract to, you go to jail. Or they change and cut off all your medication, or they poison you. Read the administrative codes. That's why I won't sign these contracts and stuff. That's why I don't do this. I know it gives them authority to murder you. People sign stuff daily, and they don't realize half the shit they sign. You know, it's like when they try to get me to go in the hospital, we need you to sign this. And every time I say, I can't sign that, I'm under duress. You know, you guys heard something called that, you know, it's a legal terminology that is there to protect us so we don't get caught up in signing our rights to something that we shouldn't be signing our rights to? You know, this is like when, you know, the president has the right to deny immigration in this country, and you got all these people that are going, oh, we need to open up the borders for these immigrants, these poor immigrants. You guys don't realize who's going to feed them. You're not going to take them into your home. You know that for a fact. I know that for a fact. So who's going to take care of these people? You know, then they decide to come in your home. They're going to take your livelihood and tell you how to live in your home. That's what you're doing? Is this the point that we've got to that point in our own country that we don't live in reality? See, this is the point that we've got to sit there and realize this. So this is why I put the stuff out all the time. You know, all the time I'm sitting out and doing emails. I'm doing emails right now to a whole bunch of people and groups, getting this stuff out because I know that we have to do this. But nobody else is going to do it unless we do it. And people are waking up, folks. You know, now we've got the stuff with Dexter Johnson with the right to travel, what he wrote. I put that out. If you haven't got it, make sure you ask for it. I'll get you the traveling structure. Now is the time to start pushing the Oregon State House and Senate on this stuff. And your state right now, they're meeting coming up, and you want them to enforce the constitutional rights, the travel and stuff. You want them to prove and fight the immigration law. That way these immigrants cannot come in your home and take your children and steal your jobs. Hello? You know, I mean, we are living this reality right now, today. So when we're living this stuff, we don't protect the children and your bloodline, you know, and everybody goes, oh, the poor immigrants. See, that's the problem. The native let the immigrants come into this country first, and look what it's done to us. They wake up. I mean, and everybody flies that war flag. You know, why are you flying the war flag? It doesn't make sense. To me, it does not make sense flying that war flag. Fly the peace flag. There is a peace flag structure out there. Please fly it. Learn what flags are lawful. Learn what flags are legal. See, once we start putting the proper stuff up in our country and we start educating the children in these things, now we've got the children really doing something. See, they're getting it. And that's what we want the kids to learn the truth about the administrative rules. We want them to learn the truth of the Constitution. Once we start doing that and they win it and they get it, that's how we get this stuff beat and won. That's how we prove the truth, not the fantasy, not the fiction. You know, that's how we win these arguments on these structures that win. You know, that is the major point. So we are getting things accomplished, as you know. You've been reading this stuff in the media. So we need to start working together and get this stuff further out there, get these things further accomplished. Because it is working too, folks. But the other point right now, the House and Senate are meeting. I'm gonna do, like I said, I'm gonna do a deal up there trying to get the money. I would like to go up to the Senate House, be able to bring these bills in, be able to have some open structure on the conversation on this publicly. I think it would be a wonderful thing for all of us. You know, I mean, what the hell else we got to do? We might as well enjoy what we got going on here. You know, I mean, that's where it comes down to. We might as well enjoy this stuff. And then also, too, I got to let you know, we got a technical foul on one of the clips on the deal. I'm going to send it to you because it's happening all over. They don't want this information out on what I filed in the newspapers. They're trying to make sure the newspaper articles that have been going on, even today that's been filed in other newspapers, they're trying to make sure none of that stuff gets out. They're panicking, folks, because the stuff that I filed, you've read it, you're getting it, and that's what I'm saying. You have to file the rights. You have to file your evidence, and that's what I bring to the table. So when you file your evidence and you bring it to the table, this is how things are going to happen. This is the only way it's going to happen. So, and once we do this stuff and you start filing this stuff, and let me bring it to your attention to make it clear. When you're filing your public affidavits, you have to file them in the police department and the fire department and your local library and museums. Okay? You have to file them there, because the museums could only file recorded records. So, and you want to file it at your county commissioner's office. You don't have to sit in the hallway and talk to these men and women. You just file the criminal charges and walk out. They're posted. Once they're posted and set, they're done. Now, I've been posting administrative rules, too, that says once you file them like that, I've got the law that says, all right, it's accepted. It's a legal post. It's a lawful post. So because it's a lawful post, now you have to go back behind it and bring it up, and you always try to go get your stuff certified, too. And that's the other point. Get it certified. Bank, library, whoever, wherever you file it, to walk in and ask whoever it is, the clerk at the city or the county, ask them to have it certified. See, now you have proof that it was served. Now you have proof that's out there. And then you want to go back to your cities and counties, because when you hang it up on the public bulletin boards, your cities and counties have to file it in recorded record. Then you have to give them 7 days from the 30 days that it expires. And then in the 7th day, you want to serve them, you want a certified copy that it was filed in the records. I'm explaining to you how the system really works. You want to play the game, you want to get them trapped, you want to have the evidence, you want to know how to protect yourself. So now you got to go get it certified, and now you have record protection. Now you can sit there and say, it's been certified, you guys certified, not my certification, it's your stamp. And you want their certification stamp. You want some elected and public servant to put an initial on it. Okay? You want them to put an initial on it. When they put an initial on it, now you have something. Okay? And that's where the whole point. You need to make sure you have evidence. Because all this stuff is based on evidence. So now you got a track record. And when you do it, you want to make sure you got a file of all that, but you always want to keep a duplicate. And nowadays, I suggest, besides a duplicate paper copy, a couple around, a couple flash drives too, and pass them around, put them on the internet, open up something so it's public. All these people say, don't make it public. Well, I want to make my stuff public because I have nothing to hide. I know these people, what they've done. I want the people to know what these people have done. I want their shame. People say, don't do that, Ed. You can't go to the public side. I was elected in public employees. Somebody's got to stand up to these public employees, and if we don't stand up to make them do their job on the public side, people stop living in their fantasy. If we don't start standing up to this stuff, there is no future. There is no Democratic Party. There's no Republican Party. It's all a set-up game to control you. After the 13th Amendment was ratified with attorneys and lawyers, remember, that follows Article 1 and Article 3 courts, because the thing is, they changed the large C to the small c, so if you were a citizen, and you have to pay attention to the way things are written. You'll even see it in congressional records where they'll change the C to a large C in a different sentence to a small C in a different sentence, using it with state corporation versus, territorial freedom. And it's really learning how to read between the lines. It's like reading a newspaper because, people don't know what it's like even to read a newspaper because it takes a skill, it takes a talent to read between the lines in a newspaper. It surely does. I mean, I've been in and out. No friends of mine have been in the newspaper industry for 40 years. And it is one of those things of learning how to read between the lines of the newspapers. That's why I tell everybody, watch that movie, Interstate 60. Watch it twice. Literally, watch it twice. Watch it the first time and then watch it the second time with a pen and paper. And, you pick up things. It's like Blazing Saddles. They even tell you the true history of the sheriff when the sheriff became in existence. Now, the sheriff is running a corporation called the Administrative Sheriff's Department. He has no authority whatsoever, period. At all. He cannot even be called under the United States Marshals at that point because the Marshals are the only lawful law enforcement agency in this country. But they can't call him in because of a corporation because the Marshals are not supposed to be part of a corporation. Remember, their original structure was to go after deserters and criminals. And so that's the point. And deserters were what they call corporation citizens. And I've got that in the writings. I put it out there in the writings over the last 10 years. I've got it filed in Congress with the House and Senate. We put it filed with the Secretary of State, even with Dennis Richardson. They all know me up there. They've got my filings. I've been putting it in for years up there. So this is the point that we've got these solutions to these problems. So it's like with the right to travel right now. We've got to get that bill pushed out. And if you know people, pass it around. If you're in another state, let's start passing it around. And let's tell people, quit listening to this shit. Do you want your rights to travel? Do you want it or not? If you do, this is how we have to push it. It's the only way it's going to happen, folks. Because the other point, we've already proven fantasy, and look at Christmas. They're talking one of the biggest spending years again that everybody's going to go into $14 billion in debt for Christmas. And I keep thinking to myself, what fucking morons. Going into debt instead of making something, instead of doing something. Go into debt because now you got to sit there and go, I've got the biggest chunk of gold than you got. I got the biggest flower that's prettier than yours this year. We get in these competitions instead of living life. And that's the problem what's going on with our politics right now today. Like Hughes says it, he's a Democrat. All these guys, when they talk about democracy, they're terrified of the democracy being shut down because, see, you got to remember, if their democracy goes down, and they're going to tell you, if we lose a democracy, we're not going to have education, we're not going to have schools anymore. That's a lie. It's already structurally set up in the writings, folks. We already got the people that can educate the next ones. We have the assets, we have the structure. It's learning the structure to do it so we don't end up like these other people have done, accepted for value in jail and stuff. We want to make sure that, if we're going to end up, doing some of that we do it legally and lawfully. But we don't do it through the tax structure that they want us to do. Because technically, the way I've done the research, when we get the water and electricity bill, we're technically not even supposed to sign it. We're supposed to have a stamp, and we're just supposed to send it and send it back. And the stamp is supposed to have your what they call initials or, your signature on the stamp because it's all fake anyways. It's the same thing that they do in court when they stamp your check because they don't sign them personally. They don't sign those checks when you put a check in to pay a fine or anything. They don't personally sign it. The clerk doesn't. They put a stamp on it from the corporation. And that's how they get their dividend checks off of the straw man account. And that's technically, I've done the research, and I'm getting more of the research on this, and this is what I'm saying, putting this stuff together. So when I'm putting this stuff out there, you guys need to start putting this stuff together, because when it does come together and you've got the facts and you can put the pieces together, we've got it. Okay? I mean, that's the whole point. So we got it, so at least we're living, and we've got some security and stuff right now. At this point, instead of, we're panicking to find out who's going to be in the street next week, we got people who've got shelter right now. Let's keep the shelter we got. We can figure out the rest later. Let's start protecting ourselves, especially from the flex of these domestic terrorists that are trying to come into our country to steal our pillows, our beds, our homes. I mean, it's like, sorry to say, folks, we are not a country of immigrants. We're a country that has been invaded and terrorized constantly. And those who are calling us a country of immigrants, those are the immigrants themselves that are who came to this country illegally, who have no rights being in the positions they are, and abusing your rights of a constitutional right. They're abusing your rights for their personal gain, and you clap along and you donate money to these people and you pat them on the back as they rape your children and put you in jail and do all this stuff to you. It's amazing. It's really amazing, especially when you're watching the churches right now and the preachers and pastors and all these people coming out and panicking now because the truth is coming out about the churches and the fraud with all these people. And so we are living this stuff, but we got to change the stuff that we've been living in the past. If you want to believe in your religion, fine. But don't take your religion and bring it to the Oregon State House or Florida House of the Senate or New York or I don't give a damn Mars or whatever. Like I said, you go into an Article I maritime court, as we have it from the military of Oregon, completely stating, when you walk into an Article I court, you leave your Constitution at the door. End of story. You go in and you have an attorney. You leave your rights with that attorney at the door, because that attorney represents you under the crown, the British government crown. And all these people tell you, oh, Ed, this doesn't happen that way. It's bullshit. They lied to you. It does. I've proven it. I've got the factual records. It's filed with the Oregon State House and Senate. It's been publicized in the newspapers on the West Coast, some on the East Coast. I've even publicized the Queen's signature or a stamp on the Constitution that says the Constitution is the law of the land and we are not a British colony. That's filed and recorded in the Oregon State House and Senate and the Secretary of State's office. Never been challenged by the Oregon State House and Senate at all, including the Vatican hasn't challenged it, and has been filed with them in 2013 and 14 when I filed on the Pope. So, yeah, all this stuff, I'm telling you, I've done it. All this is real. So I'm putting all this stuff together when I sent this package out. It's going to have all this stuff. It's going to be one hell of a reading curve for those people. Yes, people are going, oh, Ed, it's so much information. You just got to send one page. I'm just sending it all out, folks. Either you guys are going to have to start reading it, passing on, and getting on with life. Because, I've had an interesting week this week, Sometimes it gets a little frustrating when you keep going in and out of the hospital. But right now, that's what's going on. But I'm not going to sit there and go back and forth and argue with people that are not living in reality. See, and if you want to argue religion, please go argue religion. But we're not arguing religion in this country. Remember, even the structure, that the argument of religion was already done in 1839. It was already done. It was already battled. There's not supposed to be religion in any part of the United States in any courthouse. Religion is not supposed to be in any government agency or any emplacement of thereof. So it's very simple. This stuff has already been won. It's already been done. So once we start securing our rights, then we start having a future. So file your rights, educate your children. And that's the only way that we're going to be able to protect the soil. Now, next week when we go over the 16th Amendment, you want to file on your rights. You have to prove on that if you're lawful or legal. And I mean, I deal with immigration people all the time and stuff. People go, oh, I don't have to do this or that or the other thing. But, folks, I'm trying to explain something to you. Once we know who's lawful and legal in the soil, and we start proving who's lawful and legal, now we all start having rights, not privileges. Now we start being free. And that's what we want. We want freedom. So does immigration. I mean, I don't have a problem with legal immigration. I don't have a problem with immigration that are doing it. I have problems with illegal immigration. I believe they should all be sent home. I don't give a damn if they're a newborn child or not. Don't ask me for compassion. They didn't have compassion when they came into this country. They didn't have compassion when they took somebody else's job or even somebody else's medical care. Because, I mean, I've been there and certain medical situations where, you know, I mean, here it's me or, you know, all of a sudden they're talking about who do they give the care to, an immigrant or American? You know, and these people are not supposed to even have those conversations in these buildings because the thing is that medical care comes to Americans first, immigration second. And I'm not saying that being negative, but I don't want to have an immigrant that, you know, if he needs emergency medical care right now, okay, give it to him, but then ship him out. It's that simple. So once we start doing this and really starting up and protecting the bloodline and the children, these amendments are going to start meaning something because of lawful and legal point. So anyhow, we're going to open up the floor. I think I've gone off on enough on this stuff tonight. We are going to get in heavy into the 16th Amendment. I've got several videos that I want to play. I'm going to do a list that I'm going to put together for next week on a recommendation on the videos. And if you really do want to file on your rights on the structure, you'll have that. Also, too, Social Security does have an opt-out form, even for children. Okay, and that's people go, oh, no, they don't. Yes, they do. They have an opt-out form on Social Security if you want to pay or not. But remember, if you do, you have to file your lawful or legal in their paperwork today. And if you are a legal citizen, no, you cannot collect, so it's not worth paying into it. And then you get all these talk show hosts and all these people making a big joke, and they think it's hilarious. You know, these people are paying into this system, and they're never going to get anything out of it. Come on, folks. Look at the mentality of these men and women that are doing this stuff. And that's the people that you want to associate with TV and the general public. You know, I mean, the thing is that if they're not going to get anything, we don't need to rub it in their face. We just need to send them home. We don't need to act like little spoiled little children and do a tit-for-tat little dance. So the people are slowly getting more and more what the Constitution means. People are slowly getting this because we're not supposed to be doing this tit-for-tat and arguing stuff. And we're supposed to start being respectful. We're not supposed to be divided and continuing the separation of democracy and republic because neither one of them legally or lawfully even exist. So anyhow, let's open up the floor.
All participants are unmuted.
Anybody got any thoughts or questions tonight? Yeah, that's interesting. Well, we'd like to thank the other people. We've had substantial increase in membership here the last 2 weeks. We are getting more and more people joining the sites and getting more and more education out there, so people are getting it, passing it on. We do thank you for passing it on as well. I'm going to do a GoFundMe page because I still got to raise funds to keep the site up too. And, you know, I hate to do this stuff, but I ain't got the resources and dealing with what I'm trying to deal with, trying to get up to the House and Senate, and I still got to come up with resources going back and forth to the doctors today because I'm still going through that, still living on nitro and oxygen and a whole bunch of other stuff, but I'm still here. So I look at the positively on that one is just instead of sitting there in front of a TV set wilting away. So, I mean, I'm looking at the positive things that succeeding today, and that's the whole point that we need to do. So, anyhow, if nobody's got anything to say this evening, I'll get ready for next Saturday. I got a couple of videos that I want to play next Saturday into the introduction. We're going to start getting into a little bit more on eye-opening stuff, getting more into, eventually we're going to get into the paying structures of the Federal Reserve and we're going to start putting together the administrative rules of how to collect your resources and get paid. And that's the point that I've been giving out to people. And also, too, you got to make sure when you file the paperwork, you're filing on the clerks. Make sure that you put that in your paperwork. Because then that way, if you file on the clerks and you come back to it, they can't say it wasn't there. Then you have them. You already eliminated one of the steps instead of going back and forth and claiming the letters. Like everybody keeps saying, well, you have to claim the letter from the local court to the city court to the state court to the federal court. No. You can jump right to the top. And people are doing it. We are getting connections with people who have done it. We are getting connections with people who are winning. So that's the point working on. Keeping that together for ourselves. And so next Saturday, I'll have a couple of videos. And then Sunday, we're going to get into the 16th Amendment and the truth dealing with the tax structure. And don't forget, Aaron Russo had a hell of a video called The Freedom from Fascism. And I remember when he first came out with that, his brother's still up in New York City. But I mean, please watch this stuff. You know, these guys put all this stuff together too and took their time and got this information. You know, and they're not charging for it. And everybody's going, well, how do we survive tomorrow? Right now, we got to survive today and then figure out how we're going to have water and food next year first. Because you think that you have a job today, if something happens and you got no food in the store, how are you going to eat? You got no water, you know, and reserves or stuff, how are you going to survive? Things, you know, people need to start thinking. You know, I mean, that's the point. Like California, you know, people should have barrels of water sitting out of their house when it rains and stuff. But what do I know? Anyhow, with that, we got no comments. May the Great Spirit and Mother Earth provide and look over you, and the Creator take care of us all.
All right. Thank you very much, Ed. You've been listening to Education with Ed. It is Sunday, December 2nd, 2018, and I will admit, especially since my wife caught me, it is the 15th Amendment, not the 16th, as I had originally stated. At the beginning of the show, I said 16th accidentally. So 16th is
I'm sorry, yeah, 16th next week, yeah.
Yeah, 16th is next week. We were doing the 15th this week. So, thank you very much. And, again, we're dealing with corporation amendments that effectively they're just trying to fool you and pull the wool over your eyes so you follow along blindly like a sheep, so that you are a sheeple. And guess what? Majority of you are. Those that are listening to us, quite a few of them are like, no, this doesn't work kind of thing. Well, I'll tell you right now, you look at it, and if they followed their rules and regulations, then you use that against them. They quote it, they wrote it, we quote it. So if they go against their own rules and regulations, they admit that they're doing nothing but tyranny, and they'll either get destroyed by their own corporation, or the whole corporation will go down. So they have to follow their own rules and regulations no matter what.
Right.
So in the end...
they don't exist either, folks.
What was that, Ed?
I said they don't exist either.
Right, and like I had put on the show just a little bit ago, cops only deal with corporations. It's actually in their books. The only legal person known to our law is the corporation, the body corporate. Hogg versus Cancer Relief and Research Institute, 1939, 4 DLR 191 Man KB. I mean, effectively, the cops, the police officers, if you prove that you're a lawful bloodline American and they try to deal with you by their own rules and regulations, they can't. And if they do, that's piracy. That's attempted murder. Exactly. So, just remember, stuff like this is something that you learn. Do not flaunt it once you learn it. Just build yourself up. Yeah, respect it. Build yourself up. Get your knowledge. Because if they can find a way to screw you over, they will. So you get knowledgeable enough in this to where they can't. And then you'll be free. But then you'll also be liable for anything you do, and you need to learn to be responsible too. You can't have any buyouts. You can't have any save me kind of attitude. You stand, and I mean stand, don't kneel. You stand on your own 2 feet.
Right.
So, with that, we'll catch you next week, and hopefully it'll be another lots of information that you haven't heard before, and it'll actually make sense to you. So have a good night, and we'll see you next week.